Okay, everyone, we are live on YouTube. I've pasted the link already on our chat box so that you can copy it and refresh yourselves with the things that we will be discussing today so that you can review all the safety measures that we will be discussing today. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the safety orientation of B.S. Respiratory Therapy of the University of Batangas. And today we will have with us our safety officer for the university, Mr. Paul Sanggalang. And he will be discussing with you all the safety measures that you need to observe in order for us to do face-to-face classes or limited face-to-face classes in time of this pandemic. This seminar is being given to the B.S. Respiratory Therapy students, the third years and the fourth years who will be having limited face-to-face classes, especially in their laboratory courses. So, as your program director, I would like to welcome all of you and thank all of you for coming this morning. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of members of the faculty, Ms. Vanessa Borse and Mr. Adrian Macaraig. Thank you very much for coming. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Paul Sanggalang for giving us his precious time in order to acquaint us with the safety measures that we need to observe. So I would like to turn the floor over to our safety officer, Mr. Paul Sanggalang. Paul, you have the floor.
Hi, ma'am. Hi, Dr. Good morning po, students. For this morning, I'm gonna discuss yung pong mga kailangan natin ma-observe.
Hello, Paul. Can you turn on your camera, please?
Yes.
Everybody, I would like to encourage all of you to please turn on your cameras. And by the way, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. You can type in our chat box, or you can actually turn on your microphone and ask your questions. Thank you very much. Sorry, Paul. So I'd like to turn over the floor to you now. Paul, are you there? Well, ganun talaga pag live. Minsan he had to leave he'll be back in the meeting room. I guess what happened was naghang siguro. Okay. So we'll just wait for Mr. Paul Sanggalang to come back. So as part of our house rules, please take note, get your pen or paper, take note of all the things that Mr. Paul Sanggalang will tell you. And then please utilize the chat box for any questions that you may have. And please turn on all your cameras. Thank you very much. So I'll turn over the floor to you now, Paul.
Problems po. So let's get on to it na po. For this morning, I'm gonna discuss the things we need to observe before entering while inside the university premises and what to do in the case of suspected incident occurred inside the university premises. So let me share my screen. Nakikita po ba yung nasa screen?
We're not yet seeing the screen right now.
Okay po. Wait lang po.
By the way, everyone, we are on live on YouTube and the link is on the chat box. So you can review the safety measures that we will be discussing this morning.
So, kita na po?
Nagda-download pa lang, ano pa lang.
Okay po, ma'am. So initially, nakapagpasa na po tayo na bago po natin, habang inantay po natin yung pag-download. Nakapagpasa na po tayo ng mga requirements. Ano po? Yung mga documents na kailangan ipasa po.
Yes, the students are trying to take care of all the documents they need to submit to the office prior to starting face-to-face classes. It's just that we need also, of course, to acquaint them with all of this. And maganda rin na ma-refresh sila sa mga kailangan nilang i-accomplish.
Copy po, ma'am. So, start po muna tayo sa the things that the student need to know before, during, and if in case of a suspected case occurred inside the university. Ano po? So, kita na po yung ating screen.
Yes, we can see the screen. Okay.
So, this is the student informed consent. Ito po yung isa sa mga forms na ating kailangan papirmahan po sa ating magulang at papanutan po sa ating dean. Ano po? This form or document pertains to all the things we need to be acquainted with. Ano po? So to start, ano po? So before entering the university premises, student who shall enter the university campus, who shall enter the campus must have no single sign or symptom of COVID-19. Remain or stay at home when one does not feel well. Ano po? So basically, sinasabi po dito na ang mga kailangan po natin dalahin at dapat po nating hindi nararamdaman bago pumasok. So, as mentioned, kailangan po natin naka-face mask, naka-face shield. Meron po tayong personal hygiene kit na dala-dala. Ano po ang nilalaman ng personal hygiene kit? 70% alcohol, tissue, and or hand sanitizer, and extra face mask. Must have his/her own ball pen. For those smartphone users, must have an QR scanner for the for our health declaration. Ano po? And must have installed the Stay Safe app PH. Must have his/her own bottled water, and of course, the school identification card. Now, the reason for some of this, ano po, the face mask and the face shield is a basic requirement. Hygiene kit, ano po, must have his own ball pen. For smartphone user po kasi, we created a QR code to lessen contact during accomplishment of health declaration form. Ano po? So, bottled water, kasi po, we disabled all drinking fountains inside the university premises. Ang makikita po natin sa school is hand washing facilities only. Okay? So, moving forward, ito po, and one more thing. So, as what I've mentioned, student must have no single sign or symptom. So, ibig sabihin, pag pumasok po tayo sa school, we must be 100% be okay and feeling well. Okay? Kasi po, kung hindi, you will be, hindi po kayo mapapapasok sa university premises and you will be reported to your own respective barangay or city health for monitoring. Ano po? So, please take note of that. Then, upon entering, all students, faculty, should do the following. Observe 1.5 physical meter distancing. Submit oneself for thermal scanning. If temperature is 37.5, she will not be allowed to enter the university premises and will be advised to go home and take a rest. As I mentioned earlier, details will then be submitted to his/her respective barangay for further monitoring. So as mentioned earlier, for smartphone user must have a QR code scanner because there is a QR code for the health declaration app. For those students who don't have any smartphone users, we still have the forms. Ano po? So there's a declaration health checklist to be accomplished for those students who do not have access to internet or don't have any smartphone users. Okay, so present the filled out health declaration form at the guard on duty, disinfect the hands using the provided alcohol, and make use of the foot bath. Ano po? So basically, Ano po, upon entering the school, mapapansin na po agad natin may footbath na po tayong pinunubay doon, may foot pedal operated hand alcohol dispenser. Ano po. Then mapapansin po agad natin yung mga directional signage and the 1.5 meter distancing. So all throughout the university premises, meron po tayong marker that is the 1.5 meter distancing, and kalapit po nun is yung directional signage. Kasi po, we observe one-way foot traffic while inside the university premises. Ano po. So upon entering, step on the footbath, disinfect, then fill out the health declaration form. Then, ipe-present po natin sa guard on duty, which is on the information. Ano po. Then disinfect your hands. Okay. Then, upon entering, then, while inside the university premises, must wear face mask and face shield all the time, observe social distancing, observe one-way foot traffic, no loitering, no eating and drinking at the common areas of the university premises. Canteen will be open for eating and drinking purposes only. Staying at the canteen will be limited for 15 minutes per individual. No sharing of food and group meal gathering while on break. Avoid spitting. So, again, ni-require po natin si face mask and face shield, hindi lamang po para sa entrance, kundi all over during your stay inside the university premises. So, kailangan suot po natin to. I-observe po natin yung mga markers. Then, as I've mentioned, the one-way foot traffic and no loitering. Then, we retrofitted our canteen. Then, dun po ma-observe po natin yung mga naglagay po tayo dun ng mga barriers, ng alcohol dispenser, and signages to remind everybody what is to be observed inside the university canteen. And for a limited time only po tayo doon. Kasi po, as you all know, nandun po sa canteen, dun po natin ibinababa yung ating safeguard. So meaning tinatanggal po ang ating mga mask, we eat, Kaya po, no sharing, kasi dun po nagkakameron ng mabilis na transmission. Okay? So moving forward, while inside the classrooms, offices, and common areas, ito po yung kailangan natin na observe. Again, face mask and face shield all the time. Observe social distancing. Strictly no sharing and borrowing of personal materials and belonging. Kaya po natin na-mention earlier na kailangan meron po tayong sariling ballpen pagpasok. Stay only at the designated seat. Sa mga classrooms po na iisa lamang ang pintuan, upon exit, first row leaves first. First row leaves the classroom first. Okay? So always fall in line when entering offices such as library, registrar's office. Each student is allowed to stay for a maximum of 2 hours in the library. Limited seats shall be maintained. Disinfect regularly, wipe down his or her own chairs, tablets in the class every 30 minutes. So only 4 persons will be allowed in the elevator if given the authority to use. Refrain from talking while inside enclosed areas. Students will only be allowed to enter and exit the university premises once. Avoid small or big group gatherings. So balikan po natin. Again, with the face mask and the face shield must be observed. Then ang atin pong library, kung mapapansin po natin, so pagbalik po ulit natin sa University of Batangas, the ground floor is para lamang po kumuha ng libro. Then kung tayo po ay magbabasa, sa taas po tayo. The reason for that is we retrofitted the second floor of the library for adequate ventilation, and we provided plastic barriers, one-way foot traffic markings for you to be guided while inside the university library. Ito pong number 7, disinfect regularly. Although the University of Batangas disinfects the classrooms regularly, ano po, this is mentioned by during the last visit, ano po, by the Department of Health, that we try to educate, we try to ano po, instill sa mga student yung pagiging hygienic, ano po. So we encourage to disinfect and regularly wipe his or own chairs and tables, tablets, ano po yung mga belongings natin while inside the university for let's say 30 minutes. Okay po. So ito po yung isang medyo may concern, yung number 10. Students will only be allowed to enter and exit the university premises once. Ano po? So, paano po pagkakain ako? So, the University of Batangas provided a designated drop-off point for our deliverables such as Food Panda, Lazada. In that case, hindi na po uuli yung ating mga food courier sa campus. Then we provided an alcohol just in case there's going to be a deliveries for students or faculties. So, hindi na po tayo lalabas. Doon na lamang po tayo pipick up ng pagkain sa ating designated pick-up area, which is located near the study area 1. Okay po. So, moving forward, while conducting the limited face-to-face, again, kung mapapansin po natin, it's paulit-ulit. Ano po? Like for example, this wearing of face mask and face shield. Kasi po, it is observed during some of the recent limited classes. Ano po? That wearing of face mask and even face shields are not observed. So, kailangan po natin bigyang diin, ano po, na binababa na po kasi natin kalimitan ang ating depensa pagka nasa loob na po at wala na pong i-inspect. Ano po. And later on, I'll discuss na there are some personnel who are monitoring these protocols and guidelines. Ano po. So, wear face mask and face shield, observe social distancing, QR code for the health declaration, install Stay Safe app, strictly no sharing and borrowing, stay only at the designated seat, ano po, first row leaves first, ano, windows shall remain open, proper ventilation will be observed, limited number of seats shall stay in the classroom, laboratories, declared capacities will be strictly implemented. Classes will follow cyclical and staggered schedule. Students are highly advised to bring their own food. Meals must be eaten inside the classroom or kung may time po, pwede po sa ating canteen. Reusable containers, utensils are highly encouraged. No sharing of food and no talking while eating. Staggered and scheduled meal time will be implemented. Yan, students will only be allowed to enter and exit at the university premises once. Ano po. So balikan ko lamang po itong number 6. Ano po. So mapapansin po natin pagpasok natin ng ating mga classrooms, magkakameron po ng mga label doon kung saan lamang po tayo nakaupo during our stay for the limited face-to-face. So ibig sabihin, on the next day, kung meron po tayong schedule, doon pa rin po tayo mapapaupo. Ano po. Then, good thing, during the last visit, ano po, windows shall remain open, proper ventilation will be observed. And na-mention po na pwede na po natin gamitin kasi recently hindi po inallow or hindi ni-recommend ang paggamit ng aircon facility during yung mga naunang visit, ano po. Then nabanggit po ni Department of Health, it can be used provided na bukas po ang ating pintuan. So, ibig sabihin may pasukan at may labasan po ng hangin, free flowing pa rin po. Ano po. Tapos again, since this is a limited face-to-face, so i-expect po natin na hindi po buong klase ay magsasama-sama, magkikita-kita. So by schedule po tayo, by group or by bubble ang ating pagpasok. Ano po? Tapos, ano pa po ang dito? Ayun po. Again, with the sharing of the foods, this is non-negotiable. Hindi po tayo, not for sharing po ang ating mga pagkain. Ano po. Then, again, the above stated health protocols will be monitored by the health marshals using the COVID-19 health and safety checklist. So, as I've mentioned, na minomonitor po lahat ng mga guidelines na mga nabanggit. And po, especially the wearing of the face mask and the face shield. And po. So, po yung ating form, medyo malabo lang. Pasensya na po. Then, ito po ang ating gagawin. If in case suspected or nagkameron po ng COVID, nakaramdam po tayo ng sintomas, and tayo po ay na-expose sa positive, na-expose po tayo sa suspected, ito po yung ating mga gagawain. Ano po? So the University of Batangas will provide an app for reporting of those incident. Ano po? So basically, ang reporting process po natin is si estudyante will report to the department head, and the department head is supposed to tag the student at the link to be given by our ITC personnel. Ano po? Then, the details, then after po ma-report, may itatag na po kayo with all confidentiality. Ano po? A respective Google form will be sent to you to be accomplished, and the responses of that Google form will be monitored by our university nurse alone. So, with all confidentiality, all the details are being kept. Ano po? It's not to be disclosed, syempre po. Okay? So, basically, ang nilalaman po ng pag po kasi reported to COVID-19 case, ano po. So, ibig sabihin, kasi nga po, nasa bubble tayo, bubble. So, pag may nag-positive po na isa, ang the rest ng mga kaklase is considered as exposed to his/her classmate. So, all of them are required to report to the department head, and para doon sa estudyante na nag-positive, the respective COVID-19 questionnaire, and the students ay yung exposed. And sasagutan nila, they will have to revert to face-to-face classes. They will have to revert to flexible learning. Ano po? For that group alone, masususpend na po, but that does not mean na yung ibang grupo po within the class. Ma'am, ilan po ang ilan po ang group natin for RT?
For the third years, nasa mga 18, no? Adrian? I think we're around 18 sa third years.
Yes po.
Sa fourth year, ilan ba kayo na fourth year?
18 din daw po, Doc.
18 din, okay. So I think, Paul, sa isang classroom, we're only allowed to have not more than 20. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. Opo.
Oo, so pasok naman sila sa group, sa small group, no? So they're less than 20 students.
Opo. So isa pong bigayan, kumbaga, ang klase.
I think kasya na sila sa isang group, sa isang klase, because they're already less than 20 to begin with. I think pag more than 20, then you have to break it up into smaller groups. But they're less than 20, so with the BSRT, it's not really a problem. Okay. Paul? Naghang si Paul. We'll wait for Paul. Okay, we'll just wait for Mr. Sanggalang, no? Kasi mukhang nag-freeze yung screen niya. So please take note of everything that he said. Yes, Paul, you're unfrozen now. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Opo. Pasensya na po at medyo nagkakaroon po ng difficulty sa ano po. Okay. So, okay na po ako. Hindi na po ako nag-delay.
Okay na. Nag-freeze ka lang kanina. So I think we have to go back yung sa screen mo kasi nag-freeze ka kanina eh. Oo. Nag-freeze ka ulit, Paul. You're frozen again. Okay, we'll just wait for Mr. Sanggalan's screen. Okay, you're back. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Opo. May sincere apology po, ma'am. Ano po,
Okay lang.
pasensya na po talaga. Talagang nag-ano lang po ang internet connection natin. So, where were we? Ma'am, gaano po katagal ang ating isang klase?
Depending on the subject, it can go from 2 to 3 hours. Isang lab session depending on what they're going to tackle because ang mangyayari is hinahabol namin yung semester doon kasi nga November na bago na aprubahan ng BSRT, so hinahabol namin yung mga activities that we should have had before kung face-to-face.
Yes,
kung nagka-face-to-face kami na laboratory, kumbaga not anymore the lectures but really more of the
actual
activities or lab work and skills. Yun ang itatackle nila.
So ito po ay mag-run for a week or two?
The BSRT is on the 3rd week. Nakacycle ang BSRT. The OT, if they are approved, they will have the 1st week. The 2nd week is the PT. The 3rd week is the respiratory therapy. But right now we're booked for the 3rd and 4th week of November since may mga hinahabol kami and it's already near the finals. So we're going to try to make the most of the time we have left. And fortunately, yun na lang yung time before the finals. But at least we have the next. Pagdating ng next semester, we can already have more leeway pagdating sa time.
Yes, ma'am. Apo.
Oo.
Okay. So, ano nga po, para lang po ma-identify natin. Kasi po, if in the case, like for example, ito po pagka may nag-positive, so they will revert to flexible learning. Ano po. So, as per protocol po, stop na po ang limited face-to-face for that particular group. Ayun po.
They will have to be quarantined. They will have to be quarantined. The standard is 2 weeks if positive. But the beauty of BSRT is most of the faculty are doctors. Most of the faculty are doctors. That's the beauty. They're even their program head, their dean, they're both doctors, no? So what I will recommend with the students is on day 5 or day 7 of exposure is to have an RT-PCR done if they are positive or negative. So if ano naman ito, if negative, then there won't be a problem, no? They can go back to their activities. But if positive, definitely they have to complete the 14-day isolation.
Yes po, ma'am. Opo.
Mm.
Kasi po as mentioned nga po, di ka po may bago pong labas si IATF na pagka po daw exposed, although pagka may exposure, pagka na-expose yung positive sa fully vaccinated, sa halip na 14 days, na lessen ng 7 days. But with coordination, as per inquiry din po kay Dr. Kalingasan ng surveillance team, kumbaga, so to speak, maa-avail lamang po natin yung 7 days na yun if we are fully vaccinated. And fortunately, one of our requirements bago po tayo makapasok sa limited face-to-face is fully vaccinated po ang mga estudyante.
Yes.
Apo.
So the students are fully vaccinated.
Yes,
So day 5, day 7, they can have the RT-PCR, and if negative naman, pwede na tayong mag-resume ulit because they're fully vaccinated. And usually, the RT-PCR, meron din yung timing sa pagkuha to get a very good yield. And of course, with the students, I will only recommend 5 places for them to have their RT-PCR. Students, please take note. I am only recommending several places for you to have your RT-PCR. One is St. Patrick's Hospital Medical Center, BAT-MC, Batangas Medical Center. Okay, Daniel Mercado Medical Center, Mary Mediatrix Medical Center, the Red Cross, and then of course also Detoxicare. So those are only the few places that I can recommend or will accept the results. Because all of these places are also fully approved by the Department of Health, and they're also PhilHealth accredited. Okay, so please take note of the places which the department will accept the RT-PCR result. Okay.
So, ano po, yun. So, ito pong gagawin natin sa COVID positive ay sa halip na ma-revert na siya talaga totally sa flexible learning, the student will just provide a negative RT-PCR, then a clearance from the city health office. Ano po. So, ang mangyayari po nito, so since basically ang proseso po natin is report sa department head, the Google form will be sent to the student, will be filled up, the nurse will monitor, ano po. And on the 7th day, if negative, on the 5th day, kailangan pong mag-ano na tayo, given the accredited testing centers, ano po. Then, on the 7th day, the school nurse will send a Google form. Ano po, ito naman po yung parang clearance natin. Ano, then doon po natin i-attach initially yung requirements natin, such as the negative RT-PCR and the certificate from the city health office. Ano po. And just to remind you, ano po, yung proseso po kasi natin, hindi po tayo makakahingi sa city health office ng certificate kung hindi po tayo magre-report sa barangay. So first thing to do is upon the day na maalaman po natin, we report sa barangay for them to conduct a monitoring. Ano po. Then on the 8th day, ano po, since fully vaccinated tayo, on the 8th day, and if tayo ay negative, on the 8th day, punta po tayo sa barangay, kuha po tayo ng monitoring form, then punta po tayo sa City Health Office para makahingi po ng certificate. Ano po. Kasi baka po mamaya, iano natin na basta nalalaman ako pupunta sa City Health Office na hindi naman tayo nagre-report. Hindi talaga po tayo mabibigyan. And worse, babalik po ulit tayo sa day 1 upon reporting. Ayun po yung nagiging dilemma nung iba na na nabalik mo sa day 1 na hindi po sila nakapag-report. Ayun po. Para lamang po aware din po ang ating mga students. Ayun po. So the same po. So for COVID positive, automatic 14 days po siya na magka-quarantine. Then, Doctora, will we require for the COVID positive patient na mag-conduct ulit ng RT-PCR?
Hindi naman necessary to have a repeat RT-PCR once you are recovered. It depends if the case is mild, moderate, or severe. For moderate and severe cases, usually tagging a patient as fully recovered also requires clinical assessment and laboratory findings of inflammatory markers, but that can be issued by the doctor. So what the department will require you to give is a certificate of recovery. No, okay. So usually for patients that have had home care or that went to a facility, for example, the certificate of recovery is given by the city health office, or they will issue a certificate that you have completed quarantine. If you have been admitted in a hospital, the certificate of recovery is provided by the hospital. So you have to request the hospital for the certificate of recovery. And usually this will be signed by your attending physician, the doctor that attended to you during the time that you were ill with COVID. So I will repeat, for home care or for people that sa bahay lang nagpagaling, you have to get it from the city health office. However, if you have been under the care of a private physician during the time you were having COVID, even if it was home care, okay, because there are some patients who have home care with private physicians, you can request the certificate of recovery from the doctor. Okay? So, malinaw yan ha. We will require you a certificate of recovery. Not anymore an RT-PCR, because an RT-PCR can remain positive for at least 8 to 12 weeks even after you have been fully recovered from COVID. But we will require a certificate of recovery. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So yun po, ano po. So no need na po for COVID patient, recovered COVID patient na for a negative RT-PCR. All we need is the certificate from the attending physician or the city health office. Ano po. So yun po, yung isa sa mga i-attach natin doon sa Google form na matatanggap po ng ating mga estudyante. Ano po. Ang gagawa po noon, again, is yung nag-positive. Ang gagawin po, nung na-expose to a COVID positive, to a COVID person, is attachment of the negative RT-PCR and the certificate from the City Health Office. Ano po. So, the same din naman po, na-discuss ko na rin naman po ito, na buong klase po ay masususpend muna for the meantime. Ano po, then baka kabalik lamang tayo provided with the mentioned requirements. Ano po. So, ito po ay yun pong mga estudyante. This slide pertains doon sa na-expose. Ano po, the student then will report to the department head. Department head will send the Google form. Then be filled up, be monitored, and can return back to school provided with the mentioned requirements. Ano po. Tapos, if exposed COVID person is not from school, then student will inform again the department head. Department head will tag, and the nurse will monitor through the responses at the Google form. Ano po. Then, on the 7th day, On the fifth day, the student will have to have an RT-PCR minimum of minimum na po yung 5 days and above. Ano po?
Yes, dapat 5 to 7 days.
Yes po.
Because the average incubation period of COVID-19 is 7.7 days.
Yes. So yun po. So wag po tayo na pagka naalaman natin na na-expose pala ako. Agad kinabukasan magpapa-RT-PCR agad ako. No. Ano po. So through this orientation, we are telling you na yung ideal date kung kailan po tayo dapat nagpapa-RT-PCR. So 5 to 7 days. Okay? Then we can only go back to flexible learning upon presentation of the mentioned requirements. Ano po? So, ang kaibahan naman po nito, reporting student who is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. So, ito po, kailangan talaga, again, siyempre, i-report po natin sa department head. Department head will tag. Student will respond to the Google form. Nurse will monitor. Students will conduct a 14-day quarantine. Ito naman po talaga ang 14-day quarantine na kailangan po natin i-comply talaga. And as mentioned during one of the inquiries with the City Health Office, let's say may symptoms po tayo. And on the 11th day of monitoring ay meron pa rin tayong sintomas, then you are subject for extension. And the city health or the barangay will determine for how long. Ano po? So, kasi po, kayo ang supposedly po, kailangan on the 11th day, 3 days before matapos ang quarantine period, you are free of any symptoms. Ano po? May comment po tayo, Doktora po, para po doon sa mga na-mention ng City Health Office.
Yes. Usually, for patients who have been positive, you are required to have the mandatory 10-day quarantine as described by the WHO. And you should be 3 days symptom-free without the use of any, for example, paracetamol or any antipyretic. That is why here in the Philippines, we are using 14 days. That's why we're using 14 days. Okay, so dapat 3 days ka na that you are symptom-free and that you do not need any antipyretics in case you have a fever and then your cough is, you're no longer coughing and you're no longer dyspneic, no? Hindi ka na hinihingal masyado. Okay, there are some patients pa rin na lumalabas na may hingal pa rin, madaling mapagod. That's a given. But again, this is clinically assessed. So later, after this session near the end, I will be showing you what I would recommend that you all will have with you in your hygiene bags, your home care kits, so that you can assess yourself at home. Should you be ill or should you be thinking that, okay, maybe I have COVID? So it's what I recommend that everybody should have at this time. So I will show that to you at a later time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you po. So, if in case po, since bago po kasi papasukin na estudyante, dumadaan po sa mga screening, So, we're talking about students experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, po. So, if in case na nakapasok po tayo, na wala tayong nararamdaman, and while inside the university premises, tayo po ay biglang hinapo, hinika, or kinailangan po talaga ng medical emergency. Initially, dadalhin po namin kayo sa ating ni-retrofit na isolation room. We have an isolation room sa University of Batangas wherein nandoon po yung mga initial mga required minimum required ng City Health Office, such as the isolation room, properly ventilated with alcohol dispenser, ano po. So doon po i-monitor po kayo, i-assess po kayo ng ating nurse, then you will be reported to the City Health, to your guardian, to your parent, ano po. So if in case of an emergency na talagang kailangan na po ng immediate medical assistance, ano po, kayo po ay mapapatransport po sa ating wino-workout na partner hospital, ano po. Then later on, after this slide, i-mention ko po na dadalhin po tayo sa ating partner hospital, and our PhilHealth or our medical insurance will cover the expenses incurred during that emergency situation. Ayun po. So, moving forward, ano po, kung hindi naman po kinakailangan ng medical ng emergency situation, then i-advise na lamang po na ma-pick up ang ating estudyante or para po mapauwi. Ayun po. So ito po ay again 14-day quarantine po ito. Ano po. Then the extension will be given if and only if na magkameron po tayo. We are still experiencing symptoms on the 11th day. 11th day nga po ba yun? Or 11th day na po, doktora? Or 10th day?
Ano? Repeat? Ano yun?
Ano po? Kung tayo po nakaka-experience sa 11th day or 10th day ng kung nakakaramdam po ng symptoms po. Opo.
Then this will have to be assessed by your physician, because sometimes you will have to extend the quarantine, extend the medical care, maybe up to the 21st day, depending on the severity.
Opo. So 10th day po, kailangan on the 11th day we are free of symptoms.
By that time, dapat free na siya ng symptoms, tinatapos na lang yung quarantine. No? So, usually we find that those who will experience still the symptoms after the 10th day, as there are more moderate to severe cases. Mild cases usually will feel better. No? But if you are moderate to severe, then definitely you should be admitted already in the hospital. Hindi ka naka-home care basta-basta. Although during this pandemic where there was a surge of cases and hindi lahat ma-accommodate sa hospital, there were patients who were undergoing home care with the help of doctors and nurses. They were going to the houses and actually administering medication and checking patients. So as of this time, the cases are down. And so we're very fortunate with that the cases are right now on the low. Okay.
Yeah, thank you po. So, kailangan wala po tayo na experience clear lang po tayo. On the 11th day, we must be clear of any symptoms hanggang sa matapos po ang ating quarantine. Ano po. Then again, ang requirements po natin bago tayo makabalik ulit sa school, ano po, is kailangan po natin yung clearance from the City Health Office. And to have that clearance, again, kailangan po reported sa barangay. On the 15th day, lalabas po tayo, hindi on the 14th day. On the 15th day, lalabas po tayo. Kuha po tayo sa barangay ng monitoring sheet. Then, punta po tayo sa City Health Office para po makakuha ng health certificate. Again, importante po sa bawat cases ay reported sa barangay. Kasi wala pong pagsisimulan wala pong pagkukuhanan ng certification si City Health kung hindi ang barangay po lamang. Ayun po. Ayun. Para po, I keep on reminding kasi we experience these cases from time to time talaga na uh, hindi po ako nakapag-report, nagpunta lamang ako sa City Health, hindi nila ako bigyan. Tapos, babalik ulit ako para ka mabigyan. Hindi ka naman bibigyan ni barangay ng sasabihin mo lang na nag-conduct ako ng quarantine by myself without informing them. Wala silang basis. So, uh, they have to be informed. Ano po. So, it's very important and I hope wala pong mangyayaring ganong incident. Ano po. But if ever, ano po, uh, as early as now, uh, yun para po sa mga estudyante na hindi makakapag-report sa barangay and dedirekta po sa City Health nang hindi nagre-report, papaulitin lamang po ulit natin the process. And another extension of 14 days. Ayun po yung magiging problema talaga. Hindi po talaga tayo, kailangan po natin ng document from the City Health Office. Ano po, I hope you get it and understand.
I'd also like to remind the students that the importance of also telling your barangay, if one of you in the household is positive, the entire household has to be placed on lockdown. So you cannot go out, and sometimes even buying food, either you have it delivered or you can ask the help of your barangay counselors and healthcare workers to help buy groceries for you and medication that you may need. So nangyayari po talaga yan during the time also na there was a surge. The barangay officials were the ones trying to buy food for the people in their community. So remember that if one is positive in the household, the entire household has to be placed on lockdown. So you have to tell the barangay.
Yes po. Again, ano po, my apologies po. Balikan lang po natin yung sa COVID. Ano? So, na-mention nga po ni Doktora yung lockdown. Ano po? The reason na pagka may isang nag-positive during class, ay ipitigil na po natin yung buong klase is to avoid further contamination or pag-spread po ng virus. That is on RT. Ano po? What if, wag naman po sana, ano po, if in the case for CAMS, yung program po nila nagkasabay-sabay, ano po, let's say, kunwari si OT, nabigyan na po siya. And in 2 weeks time, may nag-positive po sa OT, then the whole program po ay, the whole CAMS will be suspended for that particular group or bubble to ano po, maiwasan na po natin yung pagkalat. Ano po. Ganun po ang ano natin. We will have to suspend that for 2 weeks.
So the entire class, for example, of OT or RT will have to be suspended. This is why we have placed students in a rolling calendar so that if there is a lockdown, not the entire camps will not be locked down. Yes. Only one section or one course will be locked down. So yun lang yung advantage of the rolling calendar that we have done, so that we are limiting exposure. Hindi nagsasabay-sabay ang mga students, and it's easier to limit than to monitor the students.
Yes po. So I hope wala na naman talaga po magkameron, ano po. Kasi napakahirap po talaga. And we're doing this to para din po maiwasan yung pagkalat. We have to protect each other po. Po. So moving forward, pasensya na po, nagahang lang.
Banggitin ko lang, no, ang cost ng RT-PCR, halos pare-pareho lang naman ngayon sa loob ng hospital at sa labas because the Department of Health has already placed a capitation on how much the RT-PCR would cost. Okay, so whether you're thinking dito sa ako o sa labas, it's the same. It will cost the same.
Ayun, ma'am. Pasensya na po kayo, ma'am. Talagang
Okay.
challenging lang po ang net po. Anyways. Ma'am, applicable din po ba yung sa BAT-MC na ano po yun, tawag doon, parang amounting parang 200 para po doon sa may mga PhilHealth?
There has to be pag ganon, there has to be talagang symptomatic and all. May documents na isasubmit. Ang alam ko, I cannot kung ano talaga itatawag to talaga sa BAT-MC. But usually, these are, for example, healthcare workers or talagang kunyari isang grupo for kunyari mga student na ganyan, susulat pa sa kanila and everything. So, it just takes them more time to process dahil sa government, hindi siya yung sasabihin natin na within 24 hours meron na. Because sometimes it's the volume of tests that they're also doing. So, for healthcare workers, I know that they do that.
Applicable ako.
So,
for students, hindi po masyadong...
Yung na-mention ko na ibang lugar, then you have all of those options.
Happy, ma'am. So, yes, ma'am.
Kailangan lang ng request for RT-PCR. So, the nurse, actually, our nurse sa clinic natin can issue a request for RT-PCR, or you can come to me so I can give you a request for RT-PCR, Dr. Chua or I, or any actually of your professors na doctor can give you a request for RT-PCR. But since it has to be reported to Dr. Chua and to me, then of course we will give you a request for RT-PCR so you can have the test done. And of course, our school nurse can actually give you also a request for RT-PCR.
Yes. Yes, Ma'am Vanessa, nakataas po ang ating kamay.
Doktor, how about yung saliva RT-PCR? Acceptable po ba yun?
Well, saliva RT-PCR, I know it's being used already. And I know that it is cheaper than the swab. However, sabihin na natin yung catchment of the sensitivity, mas maganda pa rin talaga yung swab. Kasi you're taking from the nose and you're taking from the mouth. The chances na mas makakuha ka ng magandang sample nandoon sa swab. Not to say na hindi mataas din ang specificity at sensitivity ng saliva, but for the BSRT, Dr. Chua and I prefer a swab versus the saliva. So we would like all the students, our students, na swab ang ipagawa versus the saliva.
Okay po. So for the last incident, ano po? Yes, sir, may question pa po kayo, Sir Adrian, Ma'am Vanessa?
Wala na po, sir. Okay.
So for the last incident, for the matters pertaining to COVID, ano po? So reporting student who has exposure to a suspected COVID person. Ano po? Let's say for example, nasa bahay tayo at ang ating kasambahay ay nilalagnat, ano po? So we are exposed to a suspected COVID person. So kailangan po natin gawin again. We will report to our department head. The department head will tag, and a Google form for that matter will be sent to the student. Ano po? And ang kaibahan po nito, ano po? So kailangan po na makakapasok lamang po tayo if and only if makakapagbigay po ng negative RT-PCR yung suspected individual na na-expose tayo. So hindi po sa atin, hindi po tayo so kailangan lamang po natin ng negative RT-PCR doon sa suspected individual. Then again, as mentioned earlier, yung timing is everything. Baka naman nasa Doktor, just to clarify lamang po, yun po mga suspected anytime ay pwede na po siya magpa-RT-PCR?
If suspected and you've had like an exposure from a positive patient, from the day of exposure, have the RT-PCR done on the 5th to 7th day.
Noon pong suspected individual?
Yes, yung suspected individual. If you have it done too soon, it might give you a false negative result.
Yes.
So have it done on the 7th day from the day of exposure.
So ang magpapa-swab, magpapa-RT-PCR po yung pertaining po doon sa na-expose, hindi po doon sa...
For example, we have one. One is the father of Pedro, and one has positive COVID. So Pedro will of course have to isolate himself, and then on day 5 to 7 will have to have an RT-PCR. So one will have to isolate himself away from his family. The family will also have to isolate themselves from the rest of the community and have their RT-PCR done on the 5th to 7th day. Now, if Pedro is negative, then he can go back to school. He has to submit the negative result of the RT-PCR to the school.
Okay po. So medyo may babaguhin lamang po tayo dito. Kasi po ang nailagay po natin dito ay if in case yung suspected po ay nag-negative, ay mapapapasok na po natin yung na-expose. Po?
Kailangan negative siya.
Apo.
Kailangan negative siya. Kasi at least nag-isolate na rin siya ng 7 days eh.
Mm-hmm.
And then nag-test na siya. And kung yung father niya naka-separate na talaga sa kanila. And of course, the rest of the class also have to take the regular precautions of the PPE. I cannot reiterate the need for the PPE, the mask, the face shields, sanitizing properly and you're doing your distancing. Because it's like a cheese. I mentioned to the class before. I gave a talk before on COVID, and it's like a Swiss cheese. Maraming holes ang Swiss cheese, so maraming pwedeng lusutan ang virus. But if you provide many barriers, the chances are that you will be safer. If you wear masks, that will block one. You have a face shield, it will block one. If you physically distance yourself, it will block one. And you're vaccinated. It's another form of blockage to help protect you. But let me reiterate to everybody, you all have to be very responsible. Pag merong nararamdaman, huwag na papasok. Pag merong nag-positive sa family, or you know that you have been exposed, huwag papasok, you have to report. You have to call the school immediately. You have to report that you have been exposed.
Yes, po.
Let's not put anybody at risk in the school, in your classmates, and in your family, in the community as well.
Yes, po. Thank you po. So for this we will be, it's either we can give them an option po it's either 14-day quarantine to prolong their quarantine period, or to submit a negative RT-PCR on the 8th day. Kasi from 5 to 7 days po pwede na po sila magpass sa RT-PCR. So on the 8th day, pwede na po tayo mag-submit na I will just have a revision on this policy.
So, RT-PCR, like it should be done ideally on the 7th day. And then usually it will be 24 hours. You can get the result. No, most hospitals and centers now will be able to give it in 24 hours. So on the 8th day, you should be able to submit your negative RT-PCR result.
Yes po.
Now, if you do not want to have it done, then you have to isolate yourself for 14 days.
Yes.
If you don't have the RT-PCR, definitely you will have to complete the quarantine of 14 days.
So I'll make a revision on this one po, ano. So on the 8th day, you'll have to provide a negative RT-PCR or the 14-day quarantine with the certification from the city health office. Ano po? Again,
Yes,
the barangay. Yes po, opo. So that's it. Ano po? Yun po yung kailangan natin for exposure for a suspected person. Ano po? Just to be safe po. Ano po? Ayun. So yeah, again, monitoring of the cases is for the nurse. Ano po? Then upon monitoring po, meron po tayo mga respective Google Forms din na isesend po sa atin upon tagging. If you are a reported COVID cases, then you will be tagged as recovered. And if you are on exposure, experiencing symptoms, then you will be tagged as cleared. Ayun po. Then, wait na po. So, for disinfection, the schools, rooms, and other facilities used in the universities are sanitized and daily with the application of diluted solutions. Again, for mental health concerns, the University of Batangas has the guidance and counseling health office. They are with the help of UB COPS. They offer online counseling, online consultation, online referral, online small group consultation, psychoeducational materials, mobile consultation, ano po. Andyan po sa link, andyan po sa presentation, yung Facebook page ng ating guidance and health office. Ano po. So, ito po yung ating mga sanctions. First offense is written reprimand. Second offense is 3-day suspension. And third offense is 15-day suspension. Ano po. So, ito po basically yung mga protocols natin. No? And pasadahan ko lamang po. Kasi ito po yung pinakamahaba sa presentation. Pasadahan ko lamang po yung mga requirements na ating kailangan i-comply. Ano na po. So basically ito po yung ating wait lang po. Madali lang po ito. Wait lang po ha. Pasensya na po. Okay na po. So ito po yung mga requirements natin. So the deed of undertaking, the student informed consent, the UB declaration of comorbidity, the UB gradual face-to-face checklist form, the COVID vaccine job, the photocopy of PhilHealth contribution, ano po. So, deed of undertaking, notarized, student informed consent, signed by student, parent, or guardian. The same with the declaration of comorbidity. For the checklist, ito po ay signed by the student, the clinic, and the department head. Ano po. So, photocopy lamang naman po itong dalawa, yung vaccine job natin at saka yung PhilHealth or medical insurance. Ano po. Yan naman po ang computer. Nagalaw po ba yung aking screen?
Ano yun? Yes?
Nagalaw po yung screen po? Nagalaw po yung aking slides?
From the required documents, hindi nag-move yung screen. Yung required documents pa rin ang naka-flash.
Apo. Pasensya na po, medyo naghahang talaga po. Ano po. So, ito pong UB deed of undertaking, student informed consent, declaration of comorbidity, gradual, yung checklist po natin, yung gradual face-to-face checklist form. Ito po ay ma'am, meron po kayong kopya nito or hindi pa po kayo nasasandan?
Meron na po, sir. Nag-aayos na po sila ng mga documents.
Okay. So basically, ito po yung mga requirements natin. Then, nasa inyo na din po yung link na pag-a-attachan ng requirement?
Wala pa po yung link.
Wala pa po. Sige po. I will send the link after this nasa ko po yun, nasa isang slide ko po. Medyo naghahang lang ako, pasensya na po talaga.
Okay.
So, doon po natin i-attach. Then, makikisend na lamang po ako ng email address po ng ating mga faculties para po magka-access ang ating mga department heads and deans po doon sa mga isasubmit ng mga bata na documents. Po?
Papay-scan ko po lahat po yung documents po nila.
Yes po, ma'am. Yes,
so, all the faculty magsasubmit ng email so that they can receive the link. Ganon.
Yes po. So, they can have the access on the responses of the students.
Okay.
Apo. So, ito po kasing pagpasok po ng mga bata sa by Monday, I think, po?
Yes. So they have to scan all of their documents and send their documents through the link.
Apo. Yun po yung initial para meron tayong soft copy. Then yung hard copy po natin, ito pong deed of undertaking is to be safe keep, and the same UB deed of undertaking, student informed consent. Ito pong dalawang ito ay ang hard copy po nito nasa department, then declaration of comorbidity, yung COVID vaccine jab, yung PhilHealth ay si clinic po ang magse-safe keep. Then ito pong checklist natin, tatlo po kasi yan eh. Tatlong parang pipirmahan lang upon pagpapareceive. Po. So, may soft copy na po kaya tayo nitong checklist?
Meron na po sila.
Yes po. Ayun. So, papapirmahan na lamang po natin. Po. So,
yes po. Sir, schedule po sila sa Wednesday sa clinic.
Yes po. Opo. Na-mention nga po sa akin ng ating nurse since ang ating doctor ay available on that day.
Okay.
Po. So, yun. So, basically, yun po yung ating mga requirements. Talagang I really apologize. May sincere apologies po sa technical problems po ng aking gadget. Po. So, may mga questions pa po kaya tayo regarding po doon sa presentation?
Any questions from the participants? Wala ba? I'm going to wala ba? Parang wala naman.
Po.
Okay.
Pero kung may questions po, itatype ko lamang po dito sa chat box ang aking email address para po if in case pwede niyo po akong ma-reach kahit po yung ating mga students. Po, kung may mga inquiries po. Again, pasensya na talaga po sa aking presentation at medyo mabagal po ang aking net dito sa bahay. Ayan po. Ito po yung aking email address for any concerns, inquiries, you can reach me through that email address, and my office is located at the OJT office for the meantime. Ayun po. Salamat po.
Po, thank you po.
Yes po, Doktora.
Doc, nakamute po kayo.
Muted siya.
Doc, muted po kayo.
Chat mo lang sa chat box. I-chat mo sa chat.
Doc, excuse me po. Nakamute po kayo.
Okay, sorry, nakamute pala ako.
Yes po.
I would also like to recommend to the third years and fourth years that you have your own pulse oximeter. You will be using this honestly because you are BSRTs and you will be using this in your line of work and also looking at prior to taking any ABGs, you should be checking the pulse ox so that when you check it against your sample, you can see that you're cross-checking it, that it's very near. And this will also help the nurses and us, the faculty, monitor your well-being should you be COVID positive. Because we will be asking, your pulse oximeter, your autosat is already, your auto saturation is already the fifth vital sign. So usually, hihingin during the monitoring phase, should you be ill with COVID, your vital signs, BP, pulse rate, RR, temperature, and very important is the autosat because this will give you an inkling should you need hospitalization or not. Remember, if your autosat is falling below 95%, if it's below 95%, then definitely you will probably need hospitalization if you are desaturating. Okay, so yun yung I just had to mention that to the rest of the class. So are there any reminders, Vanessa, Adrian, that you would like to give to the students? Wala naman, okay. Again, I would like to thank Mr. Paul Sanggalang. He's our safety officer, class. And baka ngayon yun lang siya nakita kasi hindi nyo naman, wala naman sa klase ninyo yung pupunta kayo sa safety officer, no? But this is Paul and he is our very excellent safety officer. And he really worked hard to help prepare us all for face-to-face classes. So Paul, thank you for your time. Thank you
po.
for joining us this morning.
If any concerns, ma'am, lahat po, ating mga students, faculties, message lang po kayo. I'm just one message away po.
Okay. Thank you very much. And so I'm going to end this session this morning and everybody keep safe. Please accomplish all your documents that we need in order to hold our face-to-face classes. So,
Doc, excuse me lang po.
yes.
I think we have a question po sa chat box.
Yes. Okay.
From Miss Jasmine Barrett po. Ang sabi po niya ay, good morning po. I will ask lang po about the PhilHealth contribution. If meron pong required number of months na kailangan po ay bayad. Thank you po.
Sige po.
Okay.
Ako na po ang dyan. Ano po? Doon po sa, again, one of the forms, yun po yung deed of undertaking, which I failed to, sorry po. Failed to discuss. We need PhilHealth and kailangan po tayo ay may 6 months advance payment. Ngayon, may mga nagtatanong po, what if meron po kasi mga PhilHealth na ang nagbabayad ay si LGU or what if sa employer. So, ito po ang kailangan natin na document. Wait lang po ha. So, PhilHealth membership is active with updated payments for the period of 6 months or has equivalent medical insurance that covers medical expenses related to COVID, and that if it is shouldered by my employer, must provide a copy of certificate of remittance of PhilHealth premium to the university. Ayun po. Kailangan po pagka tayo, kunwari tayo ay dependent ng ating mga magulang, and si ating magulang is nagtatrabaho sa certain company, and si company po ang nagbabayad ng kanyang PhilHealth. So, ayun po yung kailangan natin document na maibigay. Meron din po mga students na ito po yung sa mga ibang department ng mga indigent na nagbabayad nga is yung government. So, naka-indicate naman po doon sa sa kanilang parang MDR na yun po ay shoulder ng that particular agency. Ayun po. Any concerns pa po? May mga questions pa po? Sige po. Baka po may mga questions pa po tayo.
Okay, does that answer your question, Iha?
Thank you
You
po.
may-
Yes po.
Yes, you may have to get the copy of your NDR form. Make sure that you are listed down as dependent of your parents. Okay, but if you're 21 years old, then you definitely have to have your own PhilHealth number and your own contribution. Okay, so let's take some photos. Vanessa, please turn on all your cameras, and so that we can have a shot of our activity today. Vanessa, ikaw na ang mag-shoot.
Okay po, Doc. Sa first window po.
O ngiti lang ha, hindi mo alam kung anong window kayo nandun.
Okay po. 1, 2, 3. Wait lang po. Yung next window po.
Smile.
1, 2, 3. Okay na po.
Okay, thank you very much. Pa-post na lang, Vanessa, ha?
Doc.
Okay, send mo na lang sa akin din sa Viber. Okay, so thank you very much for attending the safety seminar for face-to-face classes. Thank you for joining us. Our guest speaker for this morning, Mr. Paul Sanggalang, thank you very much for giving us your time. And to our faculty members, Vanessa Borse and Adrian Macarig, thank you for coming. And so, to all our students, the third years and the fourth years, thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking the time out, everyone, of your busy schedules. And please complete all the paperwork that you need to accomplish in order so that you may be able to join the face-to-face classes. So I will be ending the session this morning in 5 seconds, everybody. So thank you again. In 5, 4,
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
everybody, please thank Mr. Paul Sanggalang before we end.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Everybody,
Thank you po sa inyo.
thank you po.
Thank you po sa inyo.
Thank you po.
Ingat po tayong lahat. Ingat po tayong lahat.
Okay, I'll end the session in 5,